Welcome back to part two of Keeping It Real, a life update. If you missed the first one, go back and have a listen. But basically, the context of this episode is that I realized I haven't been sharing a lot about my inverted commas real life on the podcast lately. It's become really focused all around just information and things like that. And I really wanted to bring a bit more human back to the podcast. But because it's been so long since I've been talking about this, I sort of wanted to do just a bit of a general life update. So go back, listen to part one. And today, let me dive on in and share a little bit of what's been going on behind the scenes for me, Clare Wood. Alrighty, well, let's dive into today's life update. And I'm going to share a little bit more about what's going on with the family and a few other different things that I feel called to talk about. So, you probably know if you're a long-term listener of the podcast or follow me on Insta that I have two boys. My boys are growing so incredibly quickly. Now, I remember that people always said to me, oh, the years go past so fast. And particularly in the early days, I thought that couldn't have been further from the truth. I felt like time was in slow motion. I was in Groundhog Day, changing nappies, breastfeeding, all the things. And it just felt like time was so slow. And as they've gotten older, as they've started school, whoa, time really is flying by. My boys are now 7 and 10. They are little humans with their own personalities and quirks and attitudes and all the things. And yeah, I just thought I'd share a bit of what's going on. So both my boys are absolutely soccer mad. I've become a soccer mum. They have been nearly all year training twice a week. They have games, they compete in competitions. They absolutely love soccer. And yeah, that's become something that consumes a bit of my life. I am really curious if you're listening to this podcast and you have kids that are doing sports and activities and all the things and running a business, I'd love for you to drop me a DM and let me know a little bit like, how do you find it all doing the juggle? Because it's really freaking hard. And I'm always really curious how other people manage it because we've sort of tried different things over the years. We, take turns. We've had a nanny at various stages. And yeah, this last season, it's sort of been, I guess, us doing the juggle, being soccer parents. So soccer season has wrapped up for the year. I'm going to be honest, I'm excited to just have a term off. No sports. They do have a couple of different activities, so there'll still be some running around, but at least it's not all soccer. Other news, my one of my kids is having some issues, so we're having extra appointments to get him a little bit of extra support. And again, anyone that has been through any of this, whether it's, health issues or school or any of those challenges, you know how consuming that can be. So, yeah, that's going on behind the scenes. And my eldest boy has broken his finger. So, a little bit of how that unfolded. Basically, him and his brother were wrestling, typical boys. If you've got, well, I shouldn't make a gender generalization, but I can tell you in our household, there is a lot of wrestling and arguing over the most silly things. And then they also can be the best friends, life advocates for each other. I take them anywhere and they cling to each other like at the park, like little besties. I find them sitting in the corner chatting after they were arguing at home. Anyway, this particular fight, my big boy's finger was sore. And I was like, yeah, you're fine. Like, off you go. And then a couple of days later, he was still taking Panadol, still telling me how sore his finger was. So I took him in to the doctor. I had been strapping it and I said, look, we're strapped it, it's fine. Took him into the doctor and it's broken. So there's not actually a lot more that they have advised us to do except for keep it strapped. But yeah, he's still pretty sore and it means that he can't be doing a lot of his usual activities. And he's a bit bummed about that. But broken bones are an inevitable part of, of childhood. My youngest sister, so I am one of five kids. I'm actually the oldest of five children, and I have two stepsisters as well. I don't refer to them as my siblings because they came later in life. So I didn't grow up with them. My dad remarried when I was 27 years old, and I have two stepsisters. But so, I generally say that I'm one of five kids. But my youngest biological sister is pregnant. So that's really exciting. She is quite a bit younger than me. She's 15 years younger than me. So we have sort of, been in different life stages, but that's really exciting. And I've got a new little niece on the way. This Christmas, we are doing a big family Christmas. So every second year, my siblings, our partners, and our children get together. And it is anyone who's from a big family will know what I'm talking about. It is a boiling pot of madness, is basically the only way that I'd describe it. Five of us are all, coupled up. And yeah, my youngest sister was the only one that didn't have children, and she's now pregnant. So everyone's partners come along. There can sometimes be the other side of the family. So, for example, my husband's mum, she will come spend every Christmas with us, the on Christmas and the off Christmas. But yeah, it's a big week. We get together. There's invariably some family drama. If you have ever watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I sometimes liken our family. Maybe not that bad. And, we don't have all of the private jets and first world problems, but there is certainly a lot of big family dynamics that go. So this Christmas, we're doing a big family Christmas. There'll be a minimum, there's usually sort of 25 to 30 of us that get together. We all come in from all different parts. I've got a sister that lives in Singapore, so everyone gets together and yeah, looking forward to that. In other news, my hubby's dad is unwell, and we have been making a real effort to be spending some more time with him. My husband in particular, trying to make sure that he gets down there more often. And the next school holidays, we're actually going in and doing a little mini break at a town called Bellingen with him and his wife. So that should be nice. But it's always hard and sad when these things are unfolding. And I'm noticing increasingly in this chapter of life that a lot of my friends' parents are sort of becoming unwell and unfortunately passing away as well. So I guess this is just this is what happens as we are, going through the various stages of life. Look, the next thing I want to talk about is it is a money, I guess, a money topic. And it's about some things that we've been doing lately that feel quite bougie, and something that I've noticed is changing as the circles that we mix in have more money. So I remember listening to a podcast years ago, and she said that as you have more money, that you tend to get more things for free. And at the time, I'm like, what is she talking about? And now I'm starting to notice this. So, for example, we get invited to events, we get invited to opportunities that never would have happened years ago. And a big part of that is because we are in circles where people have more money. And, we're living in a affluent neighborhood. So lately, my husband's had a couple of opportunities to go along to things like, you know, the chairman's lounge for footy events. And yeah, I'm going on a yacht experience soon. Really cool things that happen as you start to, I guess, get into different circles. So a lot of that I am putting out to the universe and saying, more of this, please. I love the bougie stuff. I'm very humble, very down to earth, but I also love to have real wow experiences. So, yeah, lots of those cool things are unfolding at the moment. Next thing I wanted to talk to you about is friends. My friends are my greatest blessings. I have still got friends in my world from literally my childhood. I have one good friend from high school and university and my early jobs. And then I have some really newer friendships and particularly people in the business space. Look, I am really finding that as I'm changing, that I'm still loving a lot of my friendships from my earlier years, and I know that I will treasure them forever. And also that I'm loving being in some other circles as well. So I'm in a group chat with a couple of, million dollar business owners, multi-million dollar business owners, and I feel so incredibly grateful to be part of this community. I really do adore the humans in there. I love the expansion, the honesty, and the leadership that I get to witness and be part of in that community. So that's one really cool thing going on with my friendship circles. I also have the most beautiful mum friends. If you have children, I would make sure that you get a group of mum friends who go to the same school or sports or whatever, because we really do help each other out. Someone will say, "Can you please grab my kid from this or drop them there, or can you take them this afternoon?" It really does take a village. And if you don't have one, build one. Reach out, get some people, because I don't even know how people would do it without that support. I, also have my other biz friends, my friend Steph Taylor, who I've had on here a couple of times. She is back from traveling. She took a year traveling around in her van, and it's so wonderful to have her back. And, we're getting to see a bit more of each other. And of course, my other biz friends who I chat to regularly. Next, I wanted to talk about travel. Oh my gosh, I'm aware that this is just a big dump of information, but I realize how little I've been talking about my life on the podcast. So last month or the month before, we did a family trip to Bali. Now, I was sharing about it over on Instagram, so you can go check out a little bit of an update on Insta. But outside of that, hubby and I have been traveling a lot for work. So he was in Sydney last week, he's in Melbourne this week, and he's off to Philippines next month. This is all work related. And I'm going to the Heart Centered conference next week in Noosa, which is run by Tash Corbin. I am so excited to be seeing some of the biz friends from the group chat that I mentioned earlier, having a couple of days together and just getting out of business to work on the business. I'm really, really excited about. So, one of the things that I guess is one of the most transformative things for me as a business leader and as a business owner is to travel. Because we can get, particularly if you work at home, we can just get so caught in our little tiny circle, and we can get so caught in our little space that we aren't getting out there. We aren't getting any energy of new people. We aren't going to new places. And something that I know to be true is that every time I travel, I get so expanded. I get so excited. And I just want to encourage you to try and get out as much as you can. Maybe you're at a stage where you don't have the money to invest. Go to the beach, go to a park. I know that I used to do that, just go lie in my local park with a notebook and journal or my laptop and get inspiration. If you do have the money, book the trip. Life is so short. This gets shown to us again and again and again. Get out of your everyday because you want to be building experiences. And I really believe that travel is so good for business. It opens up your mind, it gets you creative, it gets you inspired. So, again, this is why I've incorporated retreats into the Profit Collective, my mastermind. I'm like, I get it. It's hard to get away, but we have to make the time because every time I go to a retreat or a conference, I come away changed. And I want to create that sense of community. I want to create those experiences for people in my world because more and more as we are in the AI age, we need to have that human to human contact. And we need to get out of our little bubble and go get around people who are doing big things and who are inspiring us and who can get us excited about business again. The last little update that I wanted to share, I've spoken on the podcast before about how important volunteering and giving back is for me. One of the big drivers for me wanting to build a wildly successful business is to be able to create positive change in the world. And for as long as I can remember, I've been donating money to charities. I give back my time where I can and where it feels aligned. I was doing a volunteering role for a couple of years as a president of a not-for-profit, but I have stepped back from that in line with what I was talking about, bringing my energy back, being able to give more back to the business, to be able to step into this next scale, next level of business that I'm really, really keen to go towards. So I've stepped back from that, but I have still been helping out a lot in other ways. So I'm still a long-term supporter of a lot of charities. One of the charities has actually reached out to me to have a conversation about potential collaborations and what that could look like. So, really excited for that. And also just helping out family and friends. And, I look after people's dogs, I look after people's kids, and I really do love the fact that we have this flexible life that we're able to build and that I'm able to help out other people and similarly receive support in return as well. So it feels really great to be able to help out, to be able to give back. And I do encourage you to think about what your big drivers are, what's important to you. Are there charities that are important to you? Is there little ways that you want to really help create a positive impact in the world? Because for me, it's a huge, big driver of being in business. And it's important that I continue to keep that focus as I focus on profit and growing more, I really want to keep that also front of mind as well. So I know I've gone to lots of different places over the last two episodes. I hope you've enjoyed the little bit of a life update. And like I said, moving forward, I'm going to be injecting a little bit more of me into the podcast episodes. If there's ever anything that you're curious about, that you want to know about, drop me a DM. I will, try and incorporate it into a podcast episode. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to share more with you. If you are wanting to find out more about what it looks like to have me as your mentor, to be in my world, to help step you into your new level of wealth creation and freedom in your business, there's a couple of different ways that we can work together. There's private coaching, or there is my mastermind, the Profit Collective. So there'll be a link in the show notes for today's episode. You can go and click on that, book in a call, and we can have a chat about whether I'm the right fit for you and if this is the right time. I hope you've enjoyed this little series, this life update. I really appreciate you listening. And I can't wait to chat to you again next week on the Clare Wood podcast.